For the very first time in the 40-year history of the International Association of Political Consent, is awarded to citizens of Indonesia for the annual conference of IAPC. Report from the chair.
This year marked the 40th anniversary of IAPC as an organization, a major milestone.
Of the Asian Pacific Association of Political Consultants, Bo Krovig from Sweden, who is chair of the European Association.
Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of... We would like to kindly invite His Excellency the President of the Republic of Indonesia to accept of Indonesia.
Mr. President, one of the most important symbolic acts of our organization, of the International Democracy Medal, because we felt, like you, the people won a landslide victory. Allow me to read from the award to help explain why that decision was made. And I quote from a plaque I will present. Democracy to their country, beginning with a series of demonstrations that ultimately, in 1998, forced the collapse and end of 35 years of autocratic rule. The People's Movement led to Indonesia's first democratic elections. Participatory democracy has continued to flourish. In April, our country successfully held the largest single-day election in the history of the world. Political parties certified almost 450,000 candidates of each eligible voter have demonstrated an important truth. Citizens of Indonesia have proven all who would doubt that principle wrong. Mr. President, you, your nation, most important, your fellow Indonesian citizens, are a shining example of hope in our modern world. It is with humility.
Accepted by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Indonesia, the Democracy Medal. Thank you very much, Mr. Ben Goddard. Please kindly the Republic of Indonesia, followed by the striking of the gong, marking the opening of the IAPC.
By several international travel magazines. And as you spend more time here to get to know the land, the people, and the culture, it will be obvious to you why this is so. The Balinese has also proved that they are not just talented artists, but also incredibly resilient. They responded with grace and courage from terrorist attacks, and now they are back on their feet. Next month, Bali will have the honor to host a major United Nations conference to address the biggest issue of our time, climate change. I hope members of the IAPC too will marshal your moral and political support for the international effort to address global warming, on which hangs the fate of our planet and the future of the human race. This, I am informed, is the first time in its 40 years of existence that the IAPC is holding its annual worldwide conference in Asia. Well done. And I suppose my question would be, what took you so long? I am also delighted that the IAPC has decided to give the Democracy Award this year to the citizens of Indonesia. The first time ever it is given to citizens rather than to a person, which I will be very honored to receive, and I have received it, on behalf of my fellow Indonesian citizens. Thank you for this recognition, and I suppose my question would be, what took you so long? There is one word to describe what is happening to Indonesia: transformations. It is more than just change. It is more than reforms. When we say that we are the world's third largest democracy, they are essentially telling the world that Indonesia has been fundamentally transformed into a different nation. They say nations that reach greatness are those who have the ability to reinvent itself. Well, I do believe that Indonesia is in the transcending process of redefining itself. And like all process of change, it is bound to be ripe with endless criticism, occasional self-doubt, stubborn resistance, and numerous hurdles. But Indonesia remains on the right track. It is critical to remember that democracy cannot be taken for granted. There are many cases around the world where democracy falters, stagnates, decays, crumbles, or reverses itself. And there is no single cause why. Sometimes it is because authoritarian tendencies were too strong. Other times it's because inability of the political elite to embrace democratic rules, or because democratic institutions could not develop. In any of these circumstances, an economic crisis, or internal security threat, or a political scandal could easily trigger the collapse of new democracy. Indonesia is one of the last countries that joined the so-called third wave of democracy that began in mid-1970s. The democratic transition in Indonesia, with the world's fourth largest populations, the world's largest Muslim population, in one of the world's most ethnically diverse nations, was one of the momentous events in this third wave of democracy that swept the world at the end of the 20th century. I remember those early days of democracy well. There were many skeptics. Democracy, some said, would not last long in Indonesia. The people were not ready. The country was too big. The nation was too complex. Democracy, they said, would lead to chaos and even the breakup of Indonesia. Others said what happened in Indonesia was just regime change. My favorite columnist, Tom Friedman, lamented that Indonesia was becoming a messy state. And there are those who predicted democracy would unleash extremism and radicalize Indonesian politics. Because of these concerns, many Indonesians were as excited as they were anxious about Indonesia's political journey into this uncharted territory of democracy. Today, we can take a sigh of relief as the good people of Indonesia has convincingly refuted these concerns. Our democracy has become stronger and more vibrant than ever. Indonesia successfully held what is said to be the world's largest and most complex election peacefully. Rather than breaking apart, Indonesia is becoming even more united, as reflected in the Aceh peace deal. Rather than becoming a bastion of radicalism, the heart and soul of Indonesians remains moderate and progressive. Indeed, in Indonesian democracy, Islam and modernity go hand in hand, effortlessly together. And despite the early years of turbulence, where we changed president 4 times in the 4 years between 1998 to 2002, our democracy is now producing political stability and economic growth, the highest since the financial crisis. Indeed, I would say that democracy in Indonesia has reached a point of no return. There are many signs to this. We have safely passed the 2 election tests and also passed several presidential changeovers peacefully. We have radically and fundamentally changed the political landscapes in Indonesia as a result of our national and local direct elections. We have instituted strong military reforms, where the functions of the Indonesian military, the TNI, apart from defending the territory of the state, is also to guard democracy and reforms. Notwithstanding political problems that sometimes arise, unlike in other democratizing countries, there has never been any concern about an impending coup. And there are countless public opinion polls showing that even though the public may lose faith with politicians, institutions, or policies, their faith in the value of democracy, their faith in the value of democracy remains unshaken and in fact only increase over time. The conclusion is crystal clear. Democracy is here to stay in Indonesia permanently. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia has proved that no matter the size of population, the difficult geography, ethnic diversity, political complexity, or historical background, democracy can come and grow. This is not a lesson unique only to Indonesia. Many other democracies of all size and shape have found this to be the case. A question arises: why has democracy succeeded in Indonesia? Well, there are many explanations, but a key one would be that our democracy has been people-driven from the start. It is a bottom-up process of change. When the torch of reformasi began in 1998, it was a movement from below and quickly captured public nerves and energized the nations. Reformasi captured the country's aspiration in 1998, the same way independence captured the spirit of the nation during our revolutions of 1945. I would say that Indonesia's modern day instinct has always been democratic because of its people-oriented spirit. This democratic spirit is reflected in many of Indonesia's key political jargons, such as kerakyatan, gotong royong, musyawarah, kesejahteraan sosial, and so on. It is this same people impulse that drove reformasi and made democracy work in what was a difficult transition for Indonesia. It was the people's hope and aspirations that gave Indonesian democracy the oxygen and the fuel it needed to survive and grow. It is therefore very fitting that the IAPC Democracy Award should be given Two, democracy critical stakeholders, the citizens of Indonesia. Once again, thank you for this award. The citizens of Indonesia that have full ownership of Indonesian democracy. In the 2004 elections, around 150 million voters came out to vote in each of the 3 parliamentary and presidential elections. That is an average vote